we really need to get to the bottom of what happened at the FBI during the Comey years.
James Comey said Andrew McCabe stood tall, was just this model leader, and now he wants immunity because he knows he's in jeopardy with his conduct over this investigation.
Giving Mr. McCabe cover through immunity would be a mistake.
I would not give him immunity. I would make him go. If he's going to plead the Fifth Amendment, then he should plead the Fifth Amendment.
It is very, very unusual. I have to tell you, unheard of for the number 2 person in the FBI saying, you want me to testify? Give me immunity.
All right, let's talk about it with our panel. Jonah Goldberg, senior editor at National Review. Susan Page, Washington bureau chief at USA Today. And Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. Welcome to all of you today. Okay, so this discussion about McCabe immunity, Jonah, it comes ahead of, we are waiting now for the Inspector General's report. Are they connected?
I'm sure they are connected. How and in what way remains to be seen. I'm very much in favor of getting all the information out here, whatever it is, about Comey, about all of it. I'm not sure it tracks to say we have to get to the bottom of this, as Cornyn was saying, and no way should we give this guy immunity. If that's the way you get the information out of him, the argument may go the other way. It seems to me there is an interest in the optics, which are very bad for McCabe, very bad for Comey, to have the number 2 guy to FBI pleading the Fifth. But if we actually want to get the information, I'm agnostic. If he deserves to go to jail, I want him to go to jail. If he doesn't deserve it, I don't. But I really think the American people need to get the information. Yeah, well, the U.S. attorney now looking into what was found by a separate Inspector General report about that particular issue, whether there will be criminal liability. In the meantime, Senator Chuck Grassley, who of course chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, says before even beginning to consider whether to initiate the process of immunity, the committee would need to know a lot more about the anticipated scope, nature, and extent of your testimony. So, Susan, it sounds like they're leaving the door open to the possibility.
Well, of course, it's his constitutional right to either take the Fifth or to demand immunity if they expect him to testify. But I agree, optics is the word of the day, that the number 2 guy at the FBI, you do not expect him to find himself in this situation, but he must be so surprised to find himself in this situation, too, after a career in the FBI, like he's 2 days away from retiring, and he gets caught into this continuing controversy over the Clinton emails and over his the allegation that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and then misled investigators about it. It has got to be a shocking thing for him and his family to be looking at.
Well, and obviously what the Inspector General found in that initial report was that there was something less than fully honest in a number of these. And he and Comey were at odds about who was right, what information they actually shared. Comey's praised him publicly, but now should Comey be worried about what McCabe may say that could influence or hurt him?
And there's more that Comey should be actually worried about. The connection between the immunity request and the IG report is because the Senate Judiciary Committee has scheduled a hearing to discuss the IG report once it's made public. They had scheduled one for June 5th. That didn't happen. They scheduled the next one for next Monday, June 11th, and it looks like that might not happen, but it's going to happen fairly soon. They wanted McCabe to testify. Now he's asked for immunity, and there's more than just the Comey versus McCabe. I leaked, but you told me I could. No, I didn't. There's more than that. There's talk about there's information about when McCabe took a long time to recuse himself after his wife got a lot of political contributions that were kind of linked to the Clintons. And McCabe was involved in every other decision in this Clinton thing. So it's not just Comey versus McCabe.
Well, and another name in the mix, obviously, Susan, is Peter Strzok. I mean, how much do you think he is sort of wringing his hands and waiting for that report to come as well?
You know, the thing is, he was an FBI agent working on this case, and because of these very intemperate texts he sent to his girlfriend denouncing President Trump, he is seen as, I think, tainting the efforts he was doing when he was working for the FBI. That may or may not be fair, but he is now an inflammatory name when you see in things like one controversy of the day is the fact that the GSA turned over a lot of information from the transition team to Mueller without a subpoena, without going back to the Trump transition team to get permission. Strzok was part of that. It's as though we are in such a world of investigation that there is no element that does not get caught up in this spaghetti.
All right. Also, the Congress has been very busy with investigations, but now they're going to be busy in at least the Senate side in August, thanks to Senate Leader Mitch McConnell saying they're going to be in session.
Senator Lindsey Graham, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, a committee that has often been at the center of getting to the truth in all of this. Senator, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
So there are clearly new questions, I suppose it's fair to say, over James Comey's handling of events surrounding the 2016 election.
Yeah, we'll see what the report says, but I thought, Director Comey was sort of out of control, bouncing from one idea to the next. I hope the report will look at the FISA warrant abuse. I hope they'll tell us about how a dossier prepared by a foreign agent paid for by the Democratic Party wound up being used to get a warrant on an American citizen, and this dossier is still unverified to this day. I hope they will look at that too.
We've heard so much from James Comey, as you just referenced. He was on his book tour. He was across all the networks and various publications. It was hard to miss him. He was really out there. We haven't seen much of him, and now to learn that he is the focus of this IG investigation, what should that tell us?
Well, I think the IG has looked at his leadership model and found lacking. At the end of the day, the reason he jumped into the middle of the 2016 election was because he believed there was some intelligence compromising the Attorney General Loretta Lynch. All I can say is that the two FBI, the Peter Strzok and Ms.
Page,
they were in charge of the Clinton email investigation. If you trust these two, then you're crazy. Look at the email chain between them. I think the Department of Justice was in the tank for Clinton. The FBI did not do a very good job of looking at the Clinton email investigation. It was a sham investigation. In the early stages of the Russian investigation, the Department of Justice was using material provided to them by a foreign agent, a former British agent, paid for by the Democratic Party. So there's a lot to look at here.
But there was the Republican memo, there was the Democrat memo, and now we're waiting on this, and there's the anticipation is building by the day to finally see this Inspector General report.
Right.
And we have seen, and in this case, perhaps it's very critical of James Comey. Perhaps Democrats don't like it. I mean, they could discount it. We have seen that happen in the past. What is different about this Inspector General report as the American people are told that it is so highly anticipated by members of Congress and beyond?
Well, number one, it's not a Republican report. It's not a Democrat report. Mr. Horowitz is highly respected. He's viewed as a straight shooter. It's an internal investigation conducted by the Inspector General to call out abuses of the Department of Justice and the FBI. I think it will have a lot of credibility because of who he is and the position he has within the Department of Justice. But to me, it's not an adequate substitute for a special counsel to look at whether or not the law was violated. Did the FBI agent in charge of the Clinton email investigation act out of bounds? Was there a breach of the law when it came to how Mr. Steele was used as a confidential informant? Mr. Orr, the number 4 in charge of the DOJ's wife, worked at Fusion GPS, where Mr. Steele worked. There are a lot of really bad situations here, and I would like to see a special counsel look at this, not just from an internal point of view, but whether or not crimes were committed.
Meanwhile, you have been a critic of Rod Rosenstein. Of course, he's overseeing the special counsel investigation. Yeah. You've said he's conflicted, and I know that's your words. You wrote a letter basically saying he needs to recuse himself. You have received a letter back, and you're going to share with us what you've heard back tonight.
Well, one, it didn't come from him. It came from the legislative section of the Department of Justice, not from Mr. Rosenstein. Mr. Rosenstein's a fine man. It's not, I doubt his character or his qualifications. The problem I have is that I believe he will be a witness in any obstruction of justice investigation conducted by Mr. Mueller, and I don't know how you can oversee an investigation where you're going to be a witness. He's the one that wrote the memo to President Trump suggesting why Mr. Comey should be fired. He was also in the warrant application process, the FISA warrant that was issued based on a dossier coming from a foreign agent who went to Russia, paid for by the Democratic Party. He was involved in submitting that to the court. I don't know how you could look at that aspect of this case. So to me, he seems to be conflicted. I didn't get a very good answer as to why he's not.
Yeah, what was it?
Well, it was kind of gobbledygook. I understand why Sessions had to bow out because he was part of the campaign that they're looking at. I just don't know how Mr. Rosenstein is not part of the witness chain. And if you're a witness, you can't oversee the investigation that you're a witness in. So maybe I'm wrong, but the letter did not answer my question. I'm not going to give up on this. I've tried to make sure that Mueller can do his job without interference, but it really does bother me that Mr. Rosenstein has not appointed a special counsel to look at DOJ and FBI abuses. And the question is, can he legitimately oversee the Mueller investigation given the role he played?
Are you going to continue on with that?
Absolutely. I think it's time for him to come in and answer my questions, not a letter written by somebody else.
Meanwhile, the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, he is going further, trying to say that they're trying to frame the president. He said this, listen.
A group of 13 highly partisan Democrats that make up the Mueller team, excluding him, are trying very, very hard to frame him, to get him in trouble when he hasn't done anything wrong.
What do you think of that, Senator? It appears that we have lost the senator there, and that happens sometimes with live TV. We'll try to get him back if we can. Thanks to Senator Lindsey Graham. Okay, Senator, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. The beauty and joy of live television. So your response to Rudy Giuliani there?
It was the Russians. The Russians are trying to knock me off the air. Rudy, all I can say is he's pitching for the president. He's a good lawyer. Let's see what Mr. Mueller finds. It's his job to push back against the investigation. I'm not questioning these 13. I know they did this to Ken Starr and his folks. Time will tell. We'll see what kind of report they have. I've seen no evidence that the president colluded with the Russians. We'll find out sooner rather than later. It is important that this investigation be wrapped up, not to affect the midterms.
Interesting to hear his own lawyer saying they're trying to frame the president.
Yeah, right.
And they continue to say that they have done nothing wrong. Meanwhile, I know that you were at the White House today, and you met with the president. You talked about trade.
Yeah.
While that was happening, Senator, I have to tell you that there are new reports of American diplomats, while you're in that meeting, these reports coming out, new diplomats falling ill in China after hearing odd noises, they're reporting. They have been evacuated. The State Department got them out of there. But, of course, we saw a similar event in Cuba. 24 employees were affected there. And I wanted to get your response to that tonight.
I have no idea what's happening around the world, but somebody is trying to hurt our people. I don't believe on its face that the government of China would do this, but I don't know. In Cuba, I can't believe it happened without their knowledge. But Secretary Pompeo is really concerned about this. So am I. I'm in charge of oversight of the State Department, and our diplomats are, they serve our country in very dangerous places like our military. So we'll find out what happened, and we'll ask China some hard questions. But this meeting with the president, here's my takeaway. The president has a plan to get us better trade deals throughout the world, including our own backyard. He has a plan to get a better deal with Canada and Mexico. And I'm not going to do anything to undercut the president's ability to negotiate better trade deals. So this effort of having congressional review of tariffs, I don't think now's the time to do that. The president is pushing back against China. Somebody should have done it a long time ago. There was a plan in place that impressed me.
Interesting. It sounds like you continue to feel that way after a meeting today, Senator.
Thank you.